Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Your words, O Lord, give joy to my heart. Your teaching is light to my eyes. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
The Lord be with you.
And with your
spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Great crowds were traveling with Jesus, and he turned and addressed them. If anyone comes to me without hating his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not carry his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Which of you, wishing to construct a tower, does not first sit down and calculate the cost to see if there is enough for its completion? Otherwise, after laying the foundation and finding himself unable to finish the work, the onlookers should laugh at him and say, "This one began to build, but did not have the resources to finish." Or what king, marching into battle, would not first sit down and decide whether, with 10,000 troops, he can successfully oppose another king with 20,000 troops? But if not, while he is still far away, he will send a delegation to ask for peace terms. In the same way, any one of you who does not renounce all his possessions cannot be my disciple. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Well, it's a good thing in the gospel passage, the parable, Jesus said, which of you wishing to construct a tower didn't say a wall? Because if he did, I'd be forced to preach on this goofy election, and I just don't have the strength. I really don't, so we'll bypass that. I'm sure many of you have been following this whole mess with Colin Kaepernick and the quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers. As many of you know, a week ago yesterday, before a game against the Green Bay Packers, Kaepernick refused to stand during the singing of the national anthem as a sign of protest against what he believes to be rampant oppression against people of color and police brutality. I just want to speak about my own personal impression of this mess, and I want to try to contrast it with his side of the issue as best as I can understand it, because I don't know about you, I've been really struggling with this all week. So please stay with me. My Uncle Louis would be 95 years old this year. He was killed 74 years ago in the Battle of Savo Bay in World War II. And for my entire life before she died, my mother always talked about her brother, whom she last saw when she was only 14. And I've had a longing my whole life to know him and to know about him, and I never could. Because he died for our country, and it permanently affected my mother's family. In fact, his young fiancée had killed herself after the war. When I changed the flag out on the flagpole out on the point, you really should see what I go through. I kind of wrap it around my shoulders, and I struggle to put it on the hooks and then hoist it up, because my father taught us to never, ever, ever let the flag touch the ground. It's a desecration, he taught us. The flag is almost sacred, for so many people died so that we could fly it proudly in freedom. So, honestly, I want to tell Colin Kaepernick, if it wasn't for America and it wasn't for the national anthem, you wouldn't have the opportunity to even play football for a living. If it wasn't for America, you wouldn't be making almost $12 million a year when so many of our GE employees are waiting for the bottom to fall out on their families. If it wasn't for America, you wouldn't be able to retire at 40 years old with $1 gazillion in investments. When you hear the national anthem, Colin, have the decency and respect to stand in honor. That's what I want to tell him. Thank you. However, Kaepernick feels as passionately about what he believes are many horrible things happening to the lives of families of people of color. And he has a passionate need to personally do something to defend the people that he is speaking for. He feels that someone has to stand up for the people he believes are oppressed. Someone must do something to enact change. Someone must speak up so that the cry of oppression will be heard, and it is his American right to do so. Now, I personally disagree with about everything he stands for. No matter what your opinion or what your beef is, never desecrate the honor of those who died so that you can be free enough to speak up. And never desecrate the honor of those who protect your life and the lives of your family when they put on that badge every day and go to work and they might not come home. But I have to say, part of me deeply admires him in this respect. He had to know how unpopular his actions would be. He had to know that he may receive strong national opposition, maybe the loss of sponsors, maybe the loss of a position on the team, certainly a huge loss of his fan base, and he stayed strong and unbending in his convictions. He still did it. I completely disagree with what he's doing. I really do. But I deeply admire his strength for standing up in what he believes to be right, despite what he is up against. That's really what the gospel is calling for. Luke says, great crowds were traveling with Jesus. The crowds, these multitudes, had heard him, or at least heard about him, for 3 years. But Luke doesn't say if they agreed with what he says, nor does he say what their reactions were when they were to hear him this time. This time, Jesus, knowing that the clock in his life is running out, Jesus will tell them clearly, bluntly, and very harshly exactly what discipleship requires and what one must do to gain eternal life. If anyone comes to me without hating his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, and even his own life, cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not carry his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple and will not enter my Father's kingdom. Period. End of discussion. Now, if you notice, that crowd, that multitude who followed him for 3 years, who heard him say that multitude was not at the foot of his cross. They abandoned him and his word. They listened to him, then they eventually left him. A tragedy almost as deep as the cross itself. My friends, Jesus' command hasn't changed with the passing of 2,000 years. Jesus' command is the same now as it was the day he made his command known. we must never, ever put anything or anyone ahead of our baptism to follow Him and His Word and His way of life. Our salvation is dependent on it. That's a harsh teaching, but it is vital for us to hear it and accept it. The only way for us to see the face of God forever is to follow that command regardless of the repercussions that we may experience here in this life. True discipleship in this difficult, painful, crazy world of 2016 calls for a full and total commitment to that command spoken in 33 AD. There's no middle ground, there's no gray area, there's no room for interpretation. It is a commitment of the fullness of our lives. It is a commitment that must never bend. It is a commitment that may put up a barrier between us and our families and our friends. But if we follow it as Jesus commands, it is a commitment that will allow us to enjoy the glory of God forever. I wish you God's peace.